Hi there. Welcome to Bourbon Turntable. We are the show that blends the love of music with the love of whiskey. With me tonight, as always, my good friend Drew Crawley. What's
Howdy,
up,
sir.
Drew?
Oh, same thing as always, but enjoying some beautiful fall weather. Lots of work on music, all kinds of cool stuff coming there, and just enjoying all that fall has to offer.
Yeah. Well, it is a great time of the year, except that when it ends, it ends. You
It's
know,
true.
uh, when the the windstorm comes through and cleans off those trees, you might as well be ready for winter because it
Absolutely.
it it is upon you. So
Most definitely. I'm just glad I don't have to mow the yard anymore this year.
that's always a good thing too. Uh, but not looking forward to cold weather. Uh, but hey, anyway, can't do anything about that. But what we can do something about is we can talk to you tonight. We're going to talk about selling out in the whiskey industry. So we've got there's been just a flurry of activity lately with just one after the other. It seems like a never ending stream of sales of distilleries that have been going on. So we're going to
Hmm.
talk about that and just, you know, get uh, get some discussion going on that. We're going to talk about that kind of on the flip side with the music industry and artists that have sold their music catalogs and talk about who's done that, why they're doing that, and just the crazy sums of money that are changing hands on both sides of it. Um, but before we get into that, we want to tell you about the Bar Cart Co-op. This is where you need to be exchanging crazy sums of money is with the people here. Okay. Bar Cart is a group of friends, and we all have different shows that address a little bit of a different facet of this industry. Distillers Talk is with Alan Bishop and Christy Atkinson, and their show will deal with distillery geekery. So if you are really into distillation or the least bit curious about how the thing in that bottle got made, this is the show for you because Alan and Christy will talk with distillers across the country and around the world about how that happens. And they'll talk about it both on a big scale and also on the home distilling side. Alan also has a show that he does with his wife Kim called "If You Have Ghosts, You Have Everything," and that taps into the paranormal. Some of it cross sections with the whiskey industry, and some of it doesn't. My Whiskey Den with Pat and Mike airs Monday nights, 9 o'clock. You can count on it. It is the show where craft whiskey is king. So be sure to tune in and Bourbon Turntable. Boy, you need to be following, liking, subscribing Bourbon Turntable because someday we're going to hit it big and be rolling in dough like some of these folks are that we're going to be talking about tonight. And you'll want to say that you knew us back when. Speaking of knowing us back when,
Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. Hit that bell notification to find out when new episodes are coming out, which do come out every single Wednesday on all of the services: Spotify, Apple Music, Google, maybe Amazon, definitely YouTube. And always hit that like button, but hit it an odd number of times. So then that way it stays as a like.
and I still don't know what that means, but we appreciate it anyway. So, anyway, Drew, what are you drinking tonight?
So I actually, as we're recording this, we just finished another recording with our friend Brian Cushing, the Victorian man, and he had guided us through making a mint julep. So I'm sipping on a little bit of a mint julep. I've got my house bourbon, Old Forester 100 proof, over to the side if I need a little bit more, but kind of enjoying this cocktail this evening.
No. Okay, that's a good one. So in the spirit of selling out,
Mm.
we want to promote Brian and him and his show, Victorian Bar Room over on YouTube. So be sure to go see that and promote the fact that Brian's going to be on the show that will air on December 7th. So be sure to watch that as well. Really fun show. We had a great time with him, and he did walk us through how to make a cocktail, a mint julep, which is not how you make a mint julep at Churchill Downs.
Most definitely not.
Definitely not. This was good. Okay. But and fascinating conversation with him about the whole Victorian era and music in that time. So you'll definitely want to tune into that. But I am drinking one of the distillers that we're going to be talking about some tonight is going to be Limestone Branch. So I'm drinking this little jewel from Limestone Branch. This is their experimental series, and these are no more. And that tragedy is something that we'll talk about a little later. So, but as we get into the show, we will, like I said, we're going to be talking about different transactions that have taken place in the distilling world uh, over over the last few months. There have been several, but over the last few years, to remind you of some that have happened. And I'm going to put a graphic up that everybody can see. This is a small fraction, and there is activity that's going on on a smaller scale that the number of transactions, the number of deals that are getting done in the spirits industry is amazing. But so this is the list that I've got, and I didn't go. I started with Angel's Envy because I think that was kind of the first one that kind of grabbed some attention, and that happened back in 2015 when they sold to Bacardi. I mean, does anybody even remember uh, where Angel's Envy was before that? I mean,
They weren't really on the map outside of the Louisville area, I wouldn't think.
yeah,
They had made a little bit of a splash, obviously with the Lincoln Henderson name, but I were they privately owned before then, or was it an
I,
LLC or?
I think so. I mean, I think they've been around since mid 2000s, like 2006. I just looked it up. Yeah, 2006. Um, and their first product was launched in 2011, and then they sold in 4 years later. So, but I I don't know that that's one that I would say there've been that I would have noticed anything negative transcribing after or going on after that sale. Um, I think that it's obviously grown. The brand has grown and its footprint has grown.
Yeah, and I know we'll talk about this later on. Distribution routes is one of the major
True.
benefits for some of these companies to sell to a larger multinational brand. But and forgive me if this is uncharitable or unkind, but was Angel's Envy really exciting anyone in the bourbon world before they were bought?
A few people. I mean,
Yeah,
everybody's got their thing, and some people Angel's Envy is their thing, and when they come out with the big box container and everything every year,
sure.
there's some people that just really dig that, and I've never been a big Angel's Envy guy myself,
Yeah,
um, but I don't fault anybody that is,
sure.
and certainly respect the foundations of the company. So
Oh, most definitely.
yeah, so I don't have an issue with that at all. Um, then 2016, you kind of had a stream of craft distillers. Westland, who's out in Washington State, primarily known for their uh, single malt, American single malt offerings, and really kind of doing whatever they want to do in kind of a weird and unique way. They were sold out. They sold out to Remy Cointreau in 2016, and then Smooth Ambler sold out to Pernod Ricard, and Catoctin Creek went to Constellation. Oh, and then High West was that same year too. Yeah. And High West also went to Constellation. So, I mean, of those four, Westland was definitely making their own stuff. Catoctin Creek, I think, makes their own stuff. I'm not really up on them to a great degree.
I believe that's the case. Yeah.
But High West sources their whiskey, right?
Smooth Ambler did at the time as well.
Smooth Ambler, anything that they've had that has been good, I would argue, is stuff that they've sourced also. So
yeah.
I mean, we're not going to BS you here. We're going to tell you what we think. I've had some good Smooth Ambler products, but they've all been products that they have sourced and blended really, really well. And I'm not diminishing what they're providing, the art that they're bringing to it. I just think that the things that they've distilled at their own distillery have been lacking in comparison. Is that a fair way to say it?
Yep.
But so I guess at that point you're buying a brand name, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think similar to like what New Riff did with OKI, it was more of a, hey, this is an established thing. Let's kind of move that momentum forward. It doesn't hurt you if you're the bigger company gobbling that up to have a well-known-ish, craft distillery in your portfolio of total spirits brands.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, if we're talking about what's the impact been on any of these, Westland, I don't know, maybe they gained some distribution out of it, but I don't think that just when you look at what they do, it continues to be on the kind of cutting edge, unusual, creative, we're going to march to our own drumbeat stuff. And I respect that. So I don't think there's been a negative impact there. Smooth Ambler, again, that just doesn't move the needle for me.
Yeah.
I mean, do you agree, disagree?
Yeah, I mean, there was a time when I was really excited about some of the stuff that they had going on. They did a couple of lion's share picks. They had some special stuff that was under their brand umbrella. But I'm kind of with you on that. Anything that's their own distillate just doesn't do it for me.
Yeah. Then Catoctin Creek, I've had some of their stuff, and it's fine. But there may be some things that I'm just missing out on. I know some people really enjoy their stuff. Do you have much experience with them?
I really don't. That's a brand I'm not as familiar with. Obviously, I've seen it on store shelves, but it's never something I've gravitated towards.
Yeah. And then High West, everybody's familiar with High West, I think. Again, not something that I really chase because I'm not interested in chasing a lot of sourced whiskey that's just, it feels like a lot of marketing to me. But again, I don't know that this their sale to Constellation makes that much difference in what their brand is.
No.
But somebody put $1 in their pocket. Kentucky Owl.
Oof. That
Yeah,
one's an interesting one to me. Who
sold to
do they ultimately sell to?
Stoli.
That's what I thought. Yeah. So this is another case where I think the larger brand benefits tremendously in terms of having access to a high profile American whiskey in their overall portfolio. If you look at what a lot of the buzz in trade publications and things like that was a few years ago, Kentucky Owl was a big name. Unfortunately, I think their success was largely based on Dixon Dedman and his blending proficiency and him as a brand ambassador, and because they had either actually were in actuality in a scarcity, or if that was a contrived scarcity, either
Right,
way they could command a really high price point for some of their bottles.
right.
And I think with Dixon leaving and with a lot of folks walking away from some of those higher price point bottles, especially around the time of the beginning of COVID-19, they kind of lost a ton of momentum. I do not know anybody in our circles or even just casual whiskey fans that are hunting Kentucky Owl at all anymore. And it just seems like a case of really bad timing for Stoli.
Yeah, and are they not? They're not. They're building a big whiskey Disneyland or something, and
Supposedly, yeah, really haven't heard anything about that in a while. I know they broke ground on some property out in Nelson County, but
yeah,
other than that, I haven't heard anything or seen any construction updates. That could be my ignorance, or that could have been some things
right,
stopped or slowed
right,
down. Yeah, I
right.
really don't know.
Well, they went from being a premium brand
Hmm.
uh, to really diminishing the
Hmm.
the stature of the brand. They came out with the confiscated
Hmm.
Kentucky Owl confiscated brand, and then the Wise
The wise
Man
man. Yeah.
brand, and again, ne- neither of those were very good and still felt overpriced
Yeah.
at where they were. But it was uh, getting the Kentucky Owl name out amongst normal folk, normal
Hmm.
whiskey folk, and I think normal whiskey folk have kind of turned their nose up at it to a degree. I don't know anybody that that really goes after this
No.
brand anymore.
Mm-mm. And there was a time when that was not the case, right?
Right,
Like
right.
that's a noticeable
Oh,
shift, even in our little whiskey club.
yeah. I mean, Dixon Dedman was. I mean, he kind of drove Kentucky Owl,
Hmm.
and when he ceased to be involved with it, seemed to be about the time that people stopped caring about it.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't guess we'll have anybody from Kentucky Owl on the show anytime soon. Woodinville, this is one that surprised me. I didn't realize that Woodinville had sold, and they sold to Moet Hennessy,
Hmm.
um, but they seem to have retained their craft identity.
Yeah, I would say so, and that's probably part of the reason why we didn't realize they had sold, is because
Yeah,
nothing really changed.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I really love some of the Woodinville stuff too.
yeah,
They make delicious stuff.
yeah. I would agree, and I think that again, that's another thing, opportunity to take advantage of distribution.
Hmm.
Uh, So I think that was one that, at least based upon what I know of it, appears to be pretty successful. Rabbit hole,
Mm.
um, rabbit hole.
Yeah, I don't really have anything nice to say um, about said brand.
Yep.
Um, Yeah, whoever, is doing their marketing is obviously killing it. They have targeted ads on every major streaming service. Basically, the entirety of the A terminal at the Louisville,
Yeah.
airport is Rabbit Hole sponsored. I think if there's a win for them, it's a little bit of publicity. And the other thing I wanted to bring up here in addition to increased distribution for some of these companies, is access to additional secondary cooperage. So Pernod Ricard owns brands that has all of the casks that Rabbit Hole finishes their products in.
Right.
And I'm kind of wondering if some of that, um, so some of the benefit to the sell to Rabbit Hole as a company is access to cheaper cooperage for their finishing.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, they built a showcase of a distillery,
Mm-hmm.
so I'll definitely give them that.
Mm-hmm.
And their marketing is is tremendous.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they do a really good job with that.
You can't get away from it if you're in Louisville. You really
Right.
can't.
No, it's
Yeah.
everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere. But they started, I think, 2014. Is that right?
Sounds correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And um, then sold in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And then in 2022, their owner was inducted into the Kentucky Bourbon Hall of Fame.
Mm. Yeah.
Uh,
That makes me mad.
yeah, and it should. If you are a fan of bourbon and the history of it and the significance of it to the state of Kentucky, that should make you mad
Mm-hmm.
because there are people that are far more deserving that have been left out of that honor.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that maybe someday he would be uh, worthy of that,
Mm-hmm.
but as it stands right now, you built a big distillery. You sourced a lot of whiskey for a lot of years,
Mm-hmm.
and then you sold out for buku dollars.
Yeah.
And to me, that does not qualify one to be in the Kentucky Bourbon Hall of Fame.
I would agree completely. I've also heard just anecdotally, and this is just Drew talking, not speaking for the show, but there's quite the line of investors that never got their money back after that sale. And there's a lot of ongoing litigation about said profits and where they went. So just something to keep an eye on.
Okay. Well, at any rate,
Yeah.
Rabbit Hole is a brand that I've first time I tried it, I didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, okay, I'll give it another shot. Still didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but now they have their own distillate. Okay, well, I'll try it again. Still don't like it. But somebody does.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And there's a whole lot of capacity at that distillery to make a lot of spirits. So
Sure.
I guess.
Well, and let's just be fair here. And you can tell me if I'm wrong, but if you look at the impact for tourism for the city of Louisville, that new Lou area, Main Street and Market have had, Rabbit Hole has definitely increased some of the tourism options for people to come and visit the city of Louisville as a destination rather than Bardstown or Frankfurt. They're getting ready to put in a huge hotel and a distillery or in a restaurant and a bar down there. They are doing some cool things if you work for the Bureau of Tourism or whatever that is in Louisville. And there are a lot of the critiques that could be leveled at them could be also leveled at Evan Williams and Old Forester and Angels MD and Michter's that are also taking up space down there too.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, I don't know, and I may be wrong. I don't know that people are making Louisville their destination of choice so they can go visit the Rabbit Hole Distillery. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
While they're here, might they go and do a tour? Sure.
Mm-hmm.
But people have been going to Bourbon's Bistro for 17 years now when they come visit Louisville. That's a mainstay cornerstone of bourbon tourism in the state of Kentucky, yet Jason Bronner is on the Kentucky Bourbon Hall of Fame.
You make excellent points.
So, and I'm not trying to drag Jason's name into our criticism or critique of Kentucky Bourbon Hall of Fame or Rabbit Hole
Sure.
or anybody else.
Sure.
Okay, but that is an example. Jerry Dalton, who was the master distiller at Jim Beam, the only person that was ever master distiller at Jim Beam that was not a part of the Beam family, the man that bridged the gap between Booker and Fred. He is not in the Kentucky Bourbon Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
That is a travesty and a crime. So
couldn't agree more.
Either this, and well, we'll do a Kentucky Bourbon Hall of Fame and Rock and Roll Hall of Fame show at some point, and my face will get very red and I may start yelling. So, but we won't do that tonight. So, but let's just say, congratulations, Rabbit Hole, on making a lot of money. Limestone Branch, when Limestone Branch started, they sold a 50% stake to Luxco, and I think Luxco basically let them do whatever they wanted to do. They let Steve Beam do, make whiskey and blend whiskey and go for it.
Yeah, and really good whiskey too.
Yeah, and this little thing, genius. Luxco sold to MGP, Ross Squibb, or whatever they're called. They sold MGP. All right. And at that same time, these became no more. Now, is that MGP saying, don't you do this thing that everybody loves? Okay, I couldn't imagine that Limestone Branch just made the decision, man, everybody loves these things. They're so very popular. Let's just stop selling them. Well, let's stop making them. I don't see that. Maybe it happened. I don't know. But this stopped. And I don't know. I think that I love Limestone Branch. I love Fonte. He's a gem of the whiskey world himself. Steve Beam is a genius, and what they've done there is incredible. And if you've not been to Limestone Branch to see it, you need to go. Fantastic distillery, incredible tour. What they do with that little parcel of ground they have is incredible. But just some of the things that I see and hear, it doesn't sound like they're going to be able to do whatever they want to do from a creative standpoint. Now, are they going to be able to source some whiskey from the parent company? Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
They are. I think there's a Limestone Branch or Yellowstone American single malt coming out, and I'm pretty confident that is something that is sourced through the parent company. Again, that doesn't make it bad. Okay, that doesn't make it bad at all. But when you try this and things like it that Steve Beam was doing, it was exciting, and you could see where it was going. And they just came out with their 6-year Yellowstone bourbon that was their own distillate, and it's fantastic. And it's bold in that it doesn't taste like what Yellowstone used to taste like when it was being sourced. That was a bold move. But, are they going to get to continue to do all those things? I don't know.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. We can sure hope so.
I hope so too. I hope so too.
If
'Cause I
they mess
love
with my minor case, I'm going to be writing some strongly worded letters.
Oh wow. Then we kind of get into some of the things that have taken place more recently. Widow Jane got bought out by Heaven Hill uh, early this year. Uh, we had I had the opportunity to do a show with Lisa Wicker,
Mhm.
and it sounded like she was heavily involved in the bourbon blending and selections going
Mhm.
on at Heaven Hill.
Mhm.
Uh, and now she has left Heaven Hill. So we wish Lisa well and look forward to seeing what she does next. And hopefully, one of the things she does next is come on Bourbon Turntable. But
Yes.
um, then Bardstown Bourbon Company, this is one they got bought out by a private equity group. So this
Mhm.
transaction was a little different. It was bought out by the Pritzker Group, um, and Pritzker has their tentacles in a variety of industries, and this was, I think, their first venture into spirits industry.
Mhm.
Um, so you'll probably see a whole lot of activity coming down the road with these guys. But um, thoughts on Bardstown Bourbon Company, first of all?
Yeah. No, I mean, I love their entire business model. I think it's something that's very needed in terms of opportunities to do contract distillation. As more and more of these brands have come online and they're sourcing from the same place and not really changing any
Hmm.
of the distillate with a secondary cask or a blending idea or
Yeah,
whatever, Bardstown Bourbon Company really opens up Pandora's box on that and says, "Hey, come here. Let's figure out something together.
right.
And even if you can't afford your own distillery, we'll make something unique for you."
Yeah,
So I love that. If you haven't gotten to experience a visit there, super cool. Some of the best food in Kentucky at their restaurant. But
yeah,
I think if you are some kind of hedge fund or private equity group or whatever, this is a really smart buy
yeah,
because not only do they have the production capacity to be big now and get bigger later, they have the warehousing facility as well. So if you're gonna, charge somebody some taxes on barrel aging annually and a storage fee, you're gonna be making money hand over fist. So
yeah,
it's a great business opportunity for whoever picked, for the Pritzker Group. Um, and hopefully they just won't mess with the business model because I think it's really beneficial for Kentucky bourbon.
yeah. No, I agree. I think it's very smart. Steve Nally's he's great.
Hmm.
Um, he he was at a tasting event at Westport Whiskey and Wine. I don't know. It's probably
Hmm.
about a year ago, and he brought with him samples of a barrel that Chris at Westport had already picked.
Mm.
But I may be a little fuzzy on the details of this, but I believe that they weren't going to let that whiskey be released until it was 6 years old,
Mm.
and we were tasting it and it was maybe 3, and it was fantastic at 3.
Awesome.
I mean, like, you're pick another barrel now and go ahead and release this one because
Yeah.
it's stellar. They've blended uh, some of their whiskey with sourced whiskey and bottled in under a handful of different um,
Hmm.
sub brand names. Uh, but I think they're doing some really good stuff there, especially to be doing it on the scale that they're doing it.
Yep.
It still retains the quality, and I think the artistry that you would hope would come with it.
Yeah, definitely.
Then Wilderness Trail, this one went down what last week?
Yeah, it was quick.
Yeah, and they sold out. Well, that this came out on Halloween, uh, and Campari bought a 70% interest. in Wilderness Trail, and then 9 years from now, they'll buy the remaining 30%, and the the investment, the sale price was $420 million.
Wow.
And Wilderness Trail started in 2012, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So, congratulations, Dr. Pat and Shane. That's
Mm-hmm.
being remarkable. And I don't believe that that includes anything with Firm Solutions. I think that is just Wilderness Trail.
Yes. That's how I read that as well.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, and this is all just us speculating. What is the benefit if you're Campari to have another high rye Kentucky based bourbon brand in your portfolio when you already have the wildly successful Wild Turkey? Are they rounding something out in their portfolio, or was they just saying, hey, we're betting that these guys are the next big thing?
Well, I think you're looking at, again, in 10 years, they went from not on the map to the 14th largest distillery in the world.
Sure.
Okay. So there's a lot of growth that's gone on there. And
Mhm.
they took it from a net worth or a valuation of nothing to the valuation that they gave it
Hmm.
when they bought the 70% was $600 million.
Sure.
So there's something good going there,
Oh,
right?
there's lots good going there. If you've
Uh,
tried their distillate at all,
yeah,
there's lots good there. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And I think that they've quietly become a sourcing distillery as well.
Mhm.
So maybe this is a way to capitalize on that. Maybe you look at it and say, well, if MGP is going to start funneling their product more into their own brands and
Mhm.
uh, less into the hundreds of brands that you see on store shelves, those people that have been investing in MGP products for years are going to need to spend their money somewhere.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I hadn't considered that component of it.
Yeah. So, and you've got Pat and Shane kind of on the line for at least the next 9 years. And I would imagine that when they pay them that last 30%, that there'll be stipulations of this would be your role in the company for the next X number of years, and here's what your salary will be. And
Hmm.
so I'm sure there'll be contractual requirements for those guys because they're just too talented to just let walk away
Sure.
and start a Slayer cover band or anything. Um, but I mean, I'd kind of wildly conjectured that perhaps they're looking at putting Campari whiskey under an umbrella
That'd be interesting.
and um, positioning Shane to be a master distiller
Mm,
once Jimmy and Eddie are no longer at Wild Turkey.
that's a really interesting thought. Hmm. I could see it. It's not
I
the
don't know.
craziest idea in the world. There doesn't seem to be another Russell in line that is a technical distiller.
Right,
So, okay.
right. And I don't know. But I think if in the next few years you see Shane out at events and uh, shaking hands and kissing babies and signing bottles, then that might be something that you can count on.
Hmm.
But I don't know. I think it's interesting. I think that if nothing else, it just adds bandwidth in the whiskey side of things to Campari. Uh, and congratulations to Pat and Shane because
Hmm.
uh, they've done this well. They really
Absolutely.
have, and they've been committed to supporting the whiskey industry for years before this, and I'm sure years after. through Firm Solutions, and they've just been really good citizens of the bourbon community.
Absolutely.
So, then the next day, November 1st, Diageo, for an undisclosed sum, bought Balcones out of Waco, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And this one kind of was a little more puzzling. Um, wasn't really sure how that all fit.
Yeah, I was a little perplexed as well, but as you look at what else Diageo has, they're missing a craft whiskey, which seems to be the next big thing. And I mean, maybe not next big thing, in terms of global consideration, but in terms of whiskey and the kind of the geekdom,
Yeah.
seems like more and more folks like ourselves, honestly, are going towards the craft side of things. So I think it makes sense if you're Diageo to kind of hop in on that.
Yeah, and it gives you a leg up on American single malt if you think that's going to be a growing segment,
Mhm.
and I know that they do. Then that kind of gives you an opportunity there. Um, so I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But I went back and I reread the press releases
Mm-hmm.
on these two transactions. The one from Diageo, and these are short press releases. They're 5-6 paragraphs tops, and a quote from somebody from the acquiring entity, and a quote from somebody from the entity being acquired. But they use the word premium 5 times in about
Mm-hmm.
6 paragraphs, and high or highly 5 times as well.
Mm.
So premium, premium, premium. Then the one with Campari and Wilderness Trail, they used premium, premiumization, or premiumize,
Mm.
which the last two I didn't know were words. 8 times.
Mm.
So they're pushing that message of we are a premium company, we're buying premium brands. And so that's what the target is. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're a craft distiller out there and you're reasonably pricing your whiskey, you're doing it wrong if your goal is to sell out for hundreds of millions of dollars to some multinational company. So jack up the price of that stuff, overprice it, and then you'll have something, I guess. I don't know. But and there were other details in there that were just absolute horse hockey. You think reading the back of a whiskey label is bad. Read these things. Read these press releases. They're total
Yeah.
fiction. But in all seriousness, Balcones and Wilderness Trail are fantastic, fantastic brands, and they make some outstanding whiskey, and are well-earned success.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not knocking them. I'm just saying whoever is handling the marketing and the press releases and that kind of thing, it's come on, you're you're jerking our chain. So it's quite a list, isn't it?
Indeed.
Yeah. And guess what? It's going to get longer. The list is going to get bigger.
All right. So if you had to put your crystal ball hat on right now and say who's the next one to get sold, you have any bets on that?
Oh, wow. There's one that I'm surprised hasn't sold yet, and that is Four Roses.
I was going to say the same thing. Yeah.
It doesn't fit in Kieran's portfolio. It's the only whiskey brand that they own. I would think if they're not going to buy, then you know, then sell it. But
Hmm.
could you imagine what that would fetch?
Yeah.
I mean, i- if Wilderness Trail, that's been a
Hmm.
company for 10 years,
Hmm.
is going to bring $600 million, what are you going to give for Four Roses?
That's going to be a pretty big payday for somebody.
Yeah, and it whatever it is, it will not be disclosed.
I'm sure.
Okay, it just won't unless it's sold to a publicly traded company or something. But that's one that I thought that would sell.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep. I thought the same thing.
but we'll see. But I think we'll see a lot of activity in small to smaller to mid-sized distilleries as well,
Hmm. Yep.
and some that I don't think will sell, like Kentucky Peerless. I don't. I mean, I think they'd be a prime target, and Corky probably gets letters and emails and inquiries every week.
Sure.
Um, but I don't think that's why he's doing what he's doing. But that's my guess.
Yep.
Yeah,
I would agree.
one that we didn't put on here because it was basically an individual selling to an individual was Three Boys,
Hmm.
which is now Whiskey Thief.
Hmm.
Um, I think when you look at that sale, um, that's been a positive. Um, the they've kind of stepped things up to the next level from their tourism standpoint. They're going into a more diverse product line, which I think will be interesting. Our friend Kelly is doing some work
Hmm.
there with Hunter that I think will be really interesting to watch. Uh, and I think Hunter basically still has the ability to do what he wants to do
Hmm.
within certain parameters. But you know, that's one that I think it's not going to generate that kind of publicity because they're not
Right.
doing it to get publicity. But it's a very positive move, and I'm excited to see what they do with it.
Yep. Agreed. Agreed.
But something to watch. I mean, you look at again. Throw this list up one more time. Again, and this is not everything that's happened in the last 7 years, but you look at how many have happened just this year. And of this list of 13, almost a third of them have been this year. So uh, it will be interesting. It will be very interesting. So, hey, we're selling out just like everybody else does, and we're just going to tell you for our side A to side B commercial, we're going to just tell you more about Bourbon Turntable because we think we're awesome, and you can write us a check for $400 million, and we'll still come on and do this show every 2 weeks. Um, but in all seriousness, uh, in all, we appreciate the folks that watch. We appreciate the folks that are active in our Facebook page and uh, that share the show. And good grief, the guests that we've been able to have
Hmm.
this past year have been phenomenal. We're very blessed, and we're just playing around here with the whole sellout thing. But uh, you can find us on YouTube if you want to watch the show, and you can see my smiling face and Drew's smiling face every week. You can watch the show there. You can listen to the show on your favorite podcast platform. You can follow our page on YouTube or on Facebook, where we will release uh, the show each week. You can join our Facebook group where folks will come on and post what they're drinking and what they're listening to while they're drinking it. So I think we've got a good thing started here,
Hmm.
and very much appreciate everybody that's been been with us, whether you were with us from day one or whether this is the first show that you've ever listened to. Hopefully you're not a big fan of Rabbit Hole. Sorry. If you are, forgive us. We'll talk about something else next week. But we do appreciate everybody that's been along for the ride. So thank you for that. So let's talk about selling out on the music side of things. And selling out has a lot of different connotations. I think a lot of people, when they think of selling out in music, it's, Dylan went electric, or REM, you could actually understand the lyrics, or you put a song in a car commercial or that kind of thing. But what we're talking about here are artists that have sold their catalog of work. So, Drew, what are your thoughts on all of that?
Oh man, so this is an interesting discussion and one that's relatively new to me. I kind of get it to a certain extent. If you're not planning on making more music and you can sell to a major, distribution company or record label, take a big old fat paycheck, why wouldn't you? If there's not some kind of family trust or something like that to pass down those rights to, thinking about Dylan and Springsteen in particular. But then you have the other side of that too, where you have artists that are now fighting for their rights, publishing and songwriting, getting them back from some of these companies. So it's a really interesting conversation going on as a whole right now.
Yeah. One of the ones that you mentioned was Dylan. He had sold the rights to his recorded music a few years ago for $200 million. And then I think last year he sold the rights to his songwriting for $300 million. Bob Dylan, how old is Bob Dylan? Bob Dylan is not a young man.
No.
I think he's around 80.
I was going to say, he's got to be early 80s, I would think.
Let's see. Bob Dylan is 81 years young. And he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 children. And 2 ex-wives. So, all right. So why would an artist do this? What are you going to gain from that? Well, it's a lot easier to divide up $500 million in your estate than it is to divide up who gets the rights to Like a Rolling Stone and who gets the rights to Blowing in the Wind. That doesn't divide up so easily. But $500 million, yeah, we can find a way to divide that up.
Sure.
And everybody kind of go away. Well, okay, let's be honest. There'll be a lawsuit about it. It'll be a battle. It'll,
sure.
Maybe not. I mean, I don't want to disparage Dylan's kids or anything. But it would surprise me if all of these efforts that these artists are making, and that's what this is. I mean, it's converting an asset into something that is not easily transferred and not easily divided in something that's much more easy to transfer and easy to divide. It's an estate planning tool.
Yep.
So hopefully that makes that process more simple for them. But there will be lawsuits. Maybe not in Dylan's case. Hopefully not. Hopefully not in any of them. But it doesn't matter how much you try to do that. When you start talking about money, you start talking about money that's in numbers this size. I don't know. Maybe he'll buy 60% of Wilderness Trail. I don't know. But he does have a distillery to fund. So,
true.
Drop a couple $100 million in that thing, Bob. Let's get it producing some of its own whiskey and get that out in a bottle. So anyway.
Yeah.
Springsteen, he sold his recorded music rights and his songwriting rights all at the same time, and that brought in $550 million. Stevie Nicks sold hers for $100 million, which I like Stevie Nicks a lot, but I didn't think she had enough a deep enough music catalog to fetch $100 million.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know this because I haven't studied the details of that, but how much of that is for solo work and how much of that is for Fleetwood Mac things that she had a contribution to? How much of those things are caught up in those rights?
Well, I would think that if she was a co-writer on a Fleetwood Mac tune, that whoever bought her songwriting rights would have that same percentage stake. So,
Yeah,
which again will probably bring up lawsuits.
sure.
And
Yeah,
Neil
that
Young,
group of folks is not litigious at all,
no,
and
no,
they
no.
get along great.
Speaking of get along great, Pink Floyd. Pink Floyd's trying to cash in. They've got their chips and they're ready to cash those in.
Yep.
But this will become a shock to everyone. They're arguing about something. Um, it's estimated that if they put their song catalog up for auction, it would fetch $500 million. But the band members are arguing about who gets what percentage of what and who has to pay taxes on that and this. And so they've been begging somebody to take their song catalog off their hands, but they can't get on the same page to make that happen. That's got to be a lot more difficult when you're a band. It's just got to be.
Yeah.
And then Neil Young sold his rights for $150 million. And again, I'm not a big Neil Young fan, but I would have thought that Neil Young as a solo artist would have fetched more than just 50 million more than Stevie Nicks. And
Yeah.
again, I love Stevie Nicks. I think she's fantastic. But that just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and I'm curious on that one too, what the perpetuity agreements are, because Neil Young has announced a record for next year. He's got something coming out in February or March, and I'm
Yeah.
wondering if those songs are included in that sale as well.
I think they are. I think they are. So whoever he sold his rights to, his song rights to,
Mhm.
will cash in on that. And who knows, maybe that was part of the deal.
Sure.
But Neil Young goes on tour. Neil Young's going to put that cash in his pocket.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
As he should.
Absolutely, as he should. I mean, that's why bands made money that had bad record deals,
Mm-hmm.
is they toured nonstop. And so, Imagine Dragons is one that is also sold, and they sold for $100 million as well. They seem well ahead of the curve on that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, they didn't broke up as a band or anything, right?
As far as I know, they're so not on my radar.
Yeah.
I just kind of follow that under mentally who gives a shit.
Right.
Move on. But I'm not sure anyone's.
Yeah.
As far as I know, they're not planning on making any more music.
Okay.
So it may have just been, hey, we're done.
Maybe.
And they'll play the festival circuit and make the touring money, and then that'll be it.
Yeah. Well, all right. More power to him. Shakira is one that has also sold her music catalog. The amount has not been disclosed. But again, that's one that she seems a little early in her career to be, when you compare to Dylan and Springsteen and Stevie Nicks. But I don't know. Shakira she's 45, so she's got many years ahead of her, but I don't know how somebody that, shakes their hips for a living, can you do that when you're 80? I don't know. But again, very
Let's ask
talented.
J-Lo in 20 years.
Let's ask what?
I said, let's ask J-Lo in 20 years.
J-Lo may be able to do that. I don't know. She's a mutant of some sort, I think. She is a mutant. But I think it's interesting that the artists are doing this. When they first started, I thought, what on earth is going on? And then you think about it, and okay, it makes sense.
Sure.
Uh,
Well, and this may be a larger historical conversation, but with the advent of streaming and the decrease in sales revenue that's available to artists, publishing rights and songwriting rights might be the most profitable thing that they have outside of touring. So if
Right.
touring is no longer a major part of your business plan, it kind of makes sense that you would say, okay, hey, let's take it because I'm not making anything off Spotify anyway.
Right.
You might as well just get your money while you can.
Right.
Kind of a thing. I don't
Right.
know.
I mean, they're making their money off of, as far as that goes, off of people wanting to use their songs in movies, off of using their songs in commercials, um, and things of that nature. So, but that's a whole lot of money. You gotta, eh, you gotta have a whole lot of people wanting to play Born in the USA to sell a truck to make back $550 million.
Absolutely.
But you got it forever and just keep plugging it out there. But now, and unless you've got these guys are smart enough to have certain contractual exclusions, they can put your music on whatever they want to.
Yep.
So you may be, selling Viagra with your music, could be.
Sure.
Um,
Well, for the record, if someone wants to give me $100,000 for any song I've ever written, you're welcome to put it in a Viagra commercial. I will take that check straight to the bank.
all right.
I'm just teasing.
Well, a lot of people look at the Black Keys. For a longest time, they refused to allow any of their music to be used in anything commercial. That's a sellout. And then they figured, okay, that's a way to tap into a market.
Absolutely, it is.
And boy, howdy, have they.
They basically write songs for commercials now. I mean, not to reduce it to that level of simplicity, but there's something to that.
If you listen to their last album, I think that you would agree that a lot of those songs, it's like, okay, this song is written to be used in a commercial or on College Game Day, or it's because and I love the Black Keys, but there's some songs on there that I just don't see the artistic value in. So I guess Black Keys won't come on the show now either. So that whole Black Keys rabbit hole show I was holding out hope for is just not going to happen. But
yeah, we're not making a lot of friends tonight, but that's okay.
Hey, we've had some very nice things to say about a lot of different people too.
That's true.
So, and I have no fault with Dylan or Springsteen or Neil Young or Stevie Nicks or any of those folks. Do what's smart for you. I mean, this is your art. This is your art. Do what you want to with it. And to me, it doesn't diminish any of what they've done in their career at all. It's just they're being smart, and I can't fault them for that.
Absolutely.
But we have talked about a few things tonight that probably wouldn't be well received if by chance the topic of the conversation here's the show, but I don't care. If you don't like it, come on the show, we'll talk about it.
There you go.
So anyway, so that's kind of going over some of the recent transactions in the whiskey industry, talking about some of the transactions that are taking place in the music side of things as well. And hopefully, I bought a lottery ticket, so I need to check and see if that thing won. Did the Powerball hit last night? I don't know.
Not to my knowledge.
Oh, dang it. Oh, well. See, then I could have gone out and I could have bought Springsteen and Dylan
There you go.
and Rabbit Hole and shut it down. I'm sorry. No, they've built a tremendous brand in terms of its notoriety and its marketability. They have a beautiful, beautiful facility. I wish them well. I just have a real problem with the Kentucky Bourbon Hall of Fame thing. That's what really irks me about it. Smart business, man. Smart business. You made a lot of money in a short period of time. Got no problem with that. Go for it. But I got a problem with the Kentucky Bourbon Hall of Fame thing.
Yep.
That just sets me off. And at some point, you don't have to take every award that's thrown your way.
Sure. Yeah.
So
we keep teasing this Kentucky Bourbon Hall of Fame and Rock and Roll Hall of Fame show. We're gonna have to do this one of these nights. But
yep, absolutely.
We might need to set aside 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah. Maybe.
Put it out as a 2-part or something.
I have some opinions about those things.
We'll have to text offline about the recent class induct into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Oh God. Okay. We can't.
I didn't want to text you yesterday during the Tennessee game. I just didn't think it was the right time. So we'll talk later.
All right. So anyway, hang on. I gotta get something else in my glass so we can toast. Wilderness Trail.
Okay.
Hey, this is the Bourbon on the Banks bottle. So see, Wilderness Trail helping out Bourbon on the Banks. This is good stuff. Good corporate citizens. Guys that one might say someday would earn the honor of being in the Kentucky Bourbon Hall of Fame. I don't know.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, oh, goodness is right. Sorry, Drew.
Oh, you're good.
If we get hate mail, it'll come to me. Oh, wow. Hey, so here's where you can find the show if you want to be a part of this nonsense. You can watch us on YouTube. You can listen to us on your favorite podcast platform. Get in with what we're doing with Facebook. We're on Instagram. Find us. Tell people to come watch, listen, share, comment, subscribe, take up a collection, whatever. Drew, how about you, man? Where are you on social?
Yep. So I am on Twitter at DrewCrawley63, mostly being snarky, and then on Instagram at Drew.Crawley63. That's where you can find links to live dates. New music will get promoted that way, and just kind of keep up with everything going on over here.
Awesome. Hey, our next week's show.
Oh, I'm excited for this one. So we had our friends from the band Sweet Lady on to discuss their music career, the way that whiskey interplays with that. If you don't know Sweet Lady and their music, you should take some time to check that out and listen to that show for sure, because those guys are just great, and they're doing some really, really cool things with the music scene here in Louisville.
Yeah. Yep. Louisville and beyond.
Indeed.
And beyond. So, all right. Until next time, assuming there is a next time, we may get banned from YouTube. I don't know. Until next time, on behalf of Drew and myself, cheers, love, and Freebird.
Cheers.
Not everybody.